Hello friends, welcome to our channel. In this video, we are going to explain the procedure for overhauling the main bearing of main engine. The engine in this video is a MAN B&W 50 MEC 9.5 engine. The very first step for dismantling the main bearing is to turn the engine so as to position the crank wave in a horizontal position with the bottom end bearing on the exhaust side as shown in the video. We need to make sure that the crosshead for the neighboring cylinder is in a higher position than the cylinder we are working on. Otherwise, it will be impossible to lift the bearing cap. Then we need to remove the lube oil piping and the connectors on the top cover of the main bearing. After this, we fit the extension studs, the spacers, the hydraulic jacks and the nuts for the extension studs as shown in the video.
Everything reminds me of you, but everything is not enough. Really hard by the ocean, among all those white hot sands, where every sunrise is just for you. So come along and take my hand.
Then we fit the lifting tool on the main bearing cap. After this, we fit the pulley for the lifting tool on the wave plate over the main bearing in the crankcase as shown in the video. Holes with threads are provided for this purpose in the crankcase. Then we need to attach the hydraulic pipes from the hydraulic pump to the jacks and raise the hydraulic pressure to the required value. After this, we loosen the hydraulic nuts for the main bearing. Then, as shown in the video, we need to loosen the nuts on the extension studs and check if the hydraulic nuts for the main bearing are loose and opening. Then, as shown in the video, remove the nuts, hydraulic jacks, spacers and the extension studs.
Been a long time without you. Been a long time without love. Everything reminds me of you, but everything is not enough. Feeling out by the ocean, among all those white hot sands, where every sunrise is just for you.
After this, we remove the hydraulic nuts. We need to fix the wear rope to the lifting tool. Then we fix the wear rope from the lifting tool in the pulley fitted to the web plate over the main bearing as shown in the video. Then we fit one chain block from the top of the crankcase as shown in the video and lift up the bearing cap. After this, we attach two more chain blocks, one from the palm area of the piston using a belt and another one from the eye in the crankcase on the pump side. Using these two chain blocks, we shift the bearing cap towards the crankcase door as shown in the video.
Everything is not enough. Feeling out by the ocean, among all those white hot sands, where every sunrise is just for you. So come along and take my hand.
Now we attach two more chain blocks from eyes outside the crankcase door and using them shift the bearing cap outside the crankcase door. After this, we take out the top bearing shell. The bearing shell lifting tool can be used for this purpose. Now remove the locking for the lower bearing shell. Now we use a combination of 3 chain blocks. First one from the eye outside the crankcase door. The second one from the eye inside the crankcase door on the pump side. And the third one from the pump region of the piston using a belt. Then using these 3 chain blocks, we lower the cross piece in the bed plate with the ends resting on the center girders.
Every sunrise is just for you. So come along and take my hand.
After this, we position the hydraulic jacks beneath the crank waves such that they are just below the waves. Then we connect the hydraulic jacks to the high pressure pump. Now we place a dial gauge as shown in the video so as to measure the lift of the crank wave. After this, we raise the hydraulic pressure until the crankshaft is lifted by 0.2 to 0.5 mm. Under no circumstances it should be lifted higher than the clearance in the 2 adjacent bearings. Also note down the hydraulic pressure for later reference.
Everything reminds me of you.
Now we place the dismantling tool on top of the lower bearing shell. We need to make sure that the flap of the dismantling tool enters the oil groove in the bearing shell. After this, we pull the lower shell round and up until it lies over the main bearing journal as shown in the video. Then the lower bearing shell is removed from the crankcase. The lifting tool for the bearing shell can be used for this purpose. This concludes our dismantling of the main bearing. Now for assembling, first we place the lower bearing shell over the main bearing journal using the lifting tool as shown in the video. Then remove the lifting tool. Now we push the lower bearing shell down by hand or carefully by using a screwdriver as shown in the video. To ensure that the shell is correctly installed, check the distance from the main bearing support to the shell is equal in both the sides using a vernier caliper.
Everything reminds me of you, but everything is not enough. Feeling out by the ocean, among those white hot sands.
Then we need to feed back the locking screws in the bearing support. After this, we release the hydraulic pressure on the hydraulic jacks beneath the crankshaft. This shall lower the crankshaft. Then we remove the hydraulic jacks and the crosspiece from below the crankshaft. Now we land the upper bearing shell on the main bearing journal using the lifting tool for the bearing shell. Then we remove the lifting tool. We need to make sure that none of the edges of the upper bearing shell are resting on the edge of the bearing support. Now we use a combination of 4 chain blocks, 2 from eyes outside the crankcase. One chain block we attach to the eye in the crankcase on the pump side, and the 4th chain block we attach to the pump region of the piston using a belt. Then the bearing cap is shifted from outside the crankcase to the chain block on the pump region of the piston as shown in the video. Now we attach the lifting tool on the bearing cap and fix the wear rope to the lifting tool through the pulley. The wear rope is then attached to the chain block connected to the eye at the top of the crankcase. Now we shift the bearing cap onto the chain block attached to the lifting tool and the wear rope. After that, using this chain block, we lower the bearing cap into position. After this, we feed back the hydraulic nuts for the main bearing. Now, as shown in the video, we remove the lifting tool for the bearing cap, its pulley and the wear sling. Then we need to assemble the hydraulic jacks, the spacers, the extension studs and the nuts for the extension studs for hydraulically tightening the main bearing nuts.
Everything reminds me of you, but everything is not enough. Feeling out by the ocean, among all those white hot sands, where every sunrise is just for you. So come along and take my hand.
Then we connect the hydraulic jack to the hydraulic pump and raise the pressure to the required level. After this, we tighten the nuts for the main bearing and release the hydraulic pressure.
Everything reminds me of you, but everything is not enough. Feeling out by the ocean, among all those white hot sands, where every sunrise is just for you. So come along and take.
Now we disassemble the hydraulic jacks, spacers, extension studs, nuts for the extension studs and remove them from the crankcase. Then we need to remove the crosspiece and all other tools from the crankcase. This concludes our video for main bearing overhauling. If you like the video, do subscribe and share the video.